She went from a TikTok idea to a New York Times bestseller at age 22. Today, Lauren Roberts is here to talk about what chasing your dreams really looks like.
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
Today, we are speaking with Lauren Roberts.
Lauren Roberts.
Lauren Roberts.
Author Lauren Roberts.
The author of the Powerless trilogy.
It's blown up into this huge trilogy.
My favorite book.
It's so good. It made me never want to put it down.
From self-publishing in your bedroom to international book tours, what moment, Lauren, made you stop and think, wow, is this real?
Actually, when I saw my first negative video, it was like,
What's your advice for anyone to become more self-disciplined?
I really think it comes back to so strong, like can make you do things that you never thought you were capable of.
Speaking of your new book coming out, is there anything that you can tell us, a little bit of like a teaser?
I want to give a good little teaser. I will say,
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
Welcome, Lauren.
hi! Oh my goodness, thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
We're so excited as well. Anastasia and I are huge
Yes.
readers. We love
Big
your
fans.
work, and I'm so excited. We're both so excited to be speaking with you today. Lauren, you're such a successful author. So taking us back to get started, how did you get here today, and what inspired you to pursue writing as a career?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you. That was very nice. I I have always loved writing growing up. It was such a passion of mine, but it was one of those things that, you know, I never thought it would be a career in any sort of way. And so I was fully pursuing other career paths, and I was a huge reader as well, you know, in my teen years. And I kind of fell out of it a little bit. Oh, my cat Mango might make an appearance. I fell out of it a little bit when I was like true, like 15, 16 age. I was like, reading isn't cool anymore, you know, and I stopped reading until about 17. And that was when I found BookTok. And I was like obsessed with the community on there. And I decided that I would start posting and just talk about the books that I loved. And I did it one day, and for whatever reason, people wanted to listen to me yap. And so I literally just went on there and was talking about the books that I loved, the things that I loved to read about, tropes and whatnot. And I fell in love with fantasy with a touch of romance. It was like my favorite thing ever, and I wanted to keep exploring that. And so I was in a college class writing, and I read something on a TikTok live that I'd written for my college class. And I don't know why. It was so strange of me to do that. But I read something to the people on the live, and they were like, you should write a book. And I laughed at them because I figured there was no way I was ever going to do that. And then 2 days later, I had the shower thought for Powerless. And I was like, oh my word. So I just combined all of my favorite things about the genre and, you know, what I love to read in books. And I just kind of put it into the book that I wanted to read. And I took the internet along on the journey. And thankfully, they seemed to enjoy. And it was such a whirlwind. I ended up self-publishing the book, somehow pulling it together, and people were buying it. And then my lovely publisher reached out about 3 months after. So that was the whirlwind, you know, summary of it all. But that was kind of how it all happened.
Amazing. I mean, your story is, I love it because, first of all, it's incredible. I mean, you
Absolutely.
had this idea, you wrote the book. It's so popular because, I mean, obviously it's a really great story. But I also love that you were so young. You know, you were a teenager. And I think that's so inspiring to us as teens, because sometimes we're like, I'm too young to write a good book. You know, I have to wait until I graduate college or whatever that we're putting in our own way. And I love that you just went for it. You kind of overcame that hurdle of thinking you couldn't write a book, and you wrote an incredible book. And I think that it's just a strong reminder to us all that, like, if you really want to do something, just give it a go. And we live in this incredible age of like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and we can find support and learn, and I just love that.
Absolutely. I think that is what I would love people of all ages to take away from this, you know, is that if I can do it, you can do it. I literally Googled how to self-publish a book. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was just a passion project. And I think passion is the most important thing. And so as long as you have that, you can really make anything happen. I truly believe that.
Oh, I love that. And you published this amazing book that became New York Times bestselling at 18. How did you do this so young?
I have no idea. Like truly, I'm like if I tried to do it again, I'm not even sure that it would happen the same way. And I think, I happened to publish this book at the exact time when romantasy, that this new genre, was coined. It wasn't really a thing before then, but right as I published Powerless, it was when it, equal part romance and equal part fantasy like blew up in the literary world. And it was so insane. I literally Googled how to self-publish a book, and I was doing more then than I am now, honestly. I was fully in college, I was working, and I would come home and just work on publishing this book till 4 a.m. Like I just loved it. It was such a passion. And I somehow pulled everything together, like copyrights and formatting and covers and things like that. Things that, it's a lot of fun stuff until, I put a deadline on myself that I shouldn't have. I remember I gave myself about 2.5 months to publish the book, and it ended up being like a mad dash to the finish line. But we did it, and then it came out, and people were buying it. It was insane. I couldn't believe how many people wanted to read this book, and I was using social media as a tool and kind of promoting the book there. And then a couple months later, Simon & Schuster, my current publisher, reached out to me, and they have been so incredible. And now I don't have to do as much work because they help with all the nitty gritty of publishing and things. So it really is such a feat. Like indie authors are so incredible. I don't know how they do it. I published one book on my own, and I don't know that I could do it again. It's so much work. And I remember I didn't want to query for a publisher because I thought that was too much work. I was like, no, I don't want to sit around and wait for an agent and whatnot. And then now I'm realizing, both paths that you take are just as hard and just as rewarding in their own right. So big props to indie authors because they are juggling a lot.
Wow, that's incredible. I love the story of how, you actually just did it all yourself, and now you can sit back and recognize like, wow, I have someone to help me with the editing and the formatting and the marketing. But I really like how, you did actually have that initial experience. I think that's super inspiring to us, is like, you don't have to, be a hit from the start. You can kind of get there along the way. And I think that's powerful. And I'm curious, because I know that self-publishing is a bigger and emerging thing these days than it was in the past. Can you tell us, as someone who's experienced both, what is the difference really between publishing like traditionally and self-publishing?
Yes. So in my experience, with a traditional publishing route, you query for an agent, and basically, you're sending your manuscript to dozens, if not hundreds of agents, hoping that one of them will see something in it and want to pick it up. And even if they don't pick it up, it has nothing to do with the story. It truly has to do with the market. And that's why you hear some of the greatest books of all time, no one was picking up because it just wasn't right for the market, quote unquote. But turns out it was like one of the best books, So it typically is a very long process of trying to find an agent, and once you land that agent, then they are going on your behalf to the publishing houses and trying to sell this book. And I actually, thankfully, I didn't have to do any of that because I had already self-published and the book was already there. And so Simon & Schuster came to me. But I would say the whole journey of publishing feels very different from both ends. With indie publishing, it really is you controlling every single aspect, which I love. Like, I loved that I had full control over everything, but at the same time, you have full control over everything, like you have to figure it all out. And so it's a lot of work of trying to format and make sure the book is exactly where it needs to be. But even, with a traditional publisher, I have a team of people, and it's like this well-oiled machine. And I'm very thankful for them. And I can be a little lazy. I hand off my book and then they take care of the rest, and we do the editing process and whatnot. But even with self-publishing, they're big indie authors, they have teams of people to do that as well. So I think depending on how you look at it, they can feel very similar. what end of the spectrum you're at. But yeah, no matter what, it's, you put in the work to publish both ways. And so both are very, very exciting. Big feats for sure.
So
Absolutely.
cool.
You sound like you were so self-disciplined. That just sounds like so much work, and you did an absolutely amazing job.
Absolutely.
But do you think that this self-discipline was such a strong factor in being able to write, publish, and then market your own book? And if so, what's your advice for anyone to become more self-disciplined?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I really think it comes back to passion at the end of the day. And I think that's such a universal feeling, and it's so strong. Like, passion can make you do things that you never thought you were capable of. Like, I never thought I could write a book. Like that, I literally laughed at the people who said I should, because I was like, there is no way, I don't even know how. But it truly was that passion that I felt for this story, and also just storytelling in general, that gave me the self-discipline to do it, because I wanted to succeed and I wanted to follow this dream of mine that all of a sudden was a possibility. And I think if it wasn't for the passion, I absolutely would not have put in so much work for it, and I can see that in other aspects of my life, of things that I'm not nearly as passionate about, that I'm just like, it'll get done when it gets done. But yeah, I do think, I guess, advice for being more self-disciplined would be, make sure you're doing something that you are passionate about, because if you're not, obviously you can still do it, of course, but you might not have the same drive to get there. So for me, I owe it all to passion, truly. It's not really my work ethic. I fumble my way through it, but it works out.
That's terrific. I think sometimes, we look at, maybe it's a goal, or maybe it's something that we feel externally, like maybe our parents or our friends or someone in our life wants us to do it, be it for school or be it, a potential job or something as teens. But we don't want to do it ourselves, and it's so much harder to motivate yourself to think differently and think creatively enough to really put yourself into something if you don't actually want to do it. Doing it for someone else is never going to be as rewarding as doing it for your own self. And so truly, I think that's so important. And I know it can be so difficult sometimes, especially if one's passion isn't something that maybe a lot of people want them to do. For instance, if you want to, study the arts and your parents are like, oh, you should study something more science oriented because there's a lot more jobs in that. Or I know that's something a lot of my friends have experienced, but realizing that if you are able to find some way to express yourself creatively, you'll be able to really put so much more hard work into that and make it into something more successful.
Yes, having an outlet of some sort is so important to keep you stimulated and still putting passion into something. I completely agree. And I think especially with the internet, it's easy for people to tell us what they want and things. And it's you always have to remember that, it's your story or it's your passion at the core. So stay true to that. Because it's more authentic that way and people know it.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes we even look at other people online and are like, okay, if I want to be successful, I should go into finance. Because everybody that I see on my TikTok is they're working in New York and they're successful. But if you don't like math or economics, you're never going to be as hardworking or putting in the amount of hours or thinking as creatively as those people. So you have to find the equivalent of that for yourself. Don't just copy somebody else.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. That's a great point.
What do you feel, Lauren, influences your storytelling? Do you think that you infuse any personal experiences or other maybe people that you've met, anything like that, into your writing?
Yeah, I would say definitely some personal things. I mean, Peyton was kind of a role model to me in a sense. I was 18 and I was writing her, and I looked up to her because she was so strong, and she said what she wanted to, and I still am figuring out who I am as a person. We're, in young, important years of our lives. And so she was definitely me kind of projecting what I wanted in a way onto her. I don't really write, I know some authors, which I so admire, but they will write villains and based off of people, or give I think of Alex Astor. She always talks about how she gives her villains names of people that she doesn't like or things like that. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. And also I'm like, I don't really even have anyone in my life that I would do that with. But I would say I don't really base characters off of anyone in my vicinity. I definitely draw from people, you know, when I think of Powerful, especially, the relationship in that was so soft and sweet and real. And that was definitely something I drew from, you know, personal experiences. And, you know, the strong women in the books are based off of different qualities that I find in my family members and in my friends. So I definitely put like bits and pieces here and there of people in my life, but nothing too crazy. I don't ever want someone to read a book and be like, is this about me? I would be like, oh my God, I couldn't.
I love that. I think it's so amazing that you almost like built a role model for yourself. I think that's so powerful. And also like channeling all like good things and good qualities from other people and then integrating it into a character, because the best part is that you can almost see like it's not just a quality like loyalty or like being able to speak your mind, but it's also like, you know, the way that it's actually carried out. You can see the way that it carries them and how they're able to interact with other people and the decisions that they're able to make because of those qualities and the traits they have. Because I feel like it's so easy to assign something but not really know like what does that mean and how can that character actually carry that.
Ready to bring a small bit of happiness to your home? That's right, Anastasia and I have designed a series of tangible happiness activities. This is Mission Family Time, and it's all about connecting you and your family. So this box has 100 unique activities to do to feel happier and build the habit of happiness and connection into your life. It comes with 4 categories: conversation starters, DIYs, fun things to do at home, and fun things to do outside of home. Anastasia, do you want to grab a card?
Absolutely.
Should we do a conversation starter?
I think so. Talk about it. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you or that you've seen this past week?
I think one of the funniest things, and I'm sorry if I'm taking this from you, but Anastasia woke up this morning and told me about how she woke up at 2 a.m. and she had hiccups, and then she was eating sugar because it helps her stop her hiccups at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, that was probably more funny for you than me.
Yeah.
I think this week was when we were baking madeleines and Mercedes just kept dropping everything into the mixture because
I always do that. So if you want to get some screen-free time with your family this summer, or you're just looking for a really good gift for a child, tween, or teen in your life, shop Mission Family Time. It's linked in the show notes.
Now let's get back into the episode.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a huge compliment. Thank you so much. I'm glad that it came off that way. But yeah, I definitely, you know, and Peyton was my role model, but I also want her to be other teenagers' role models, you know? Like, I find it so important to be able to speak to young people, because sometimes it's like, you know, I don't know if they're going to listen to me, you know? And so this is like my direct line to them and say how I feel and what I want them to know as they're growing up. And we're in such like malleable years of our lives. And so it's such an honor to be able to like have a direct line to young people and kind of show them that like, here's the love that you deserve. And like, you're allowed to be bold in this and that. So yeah.
So powerful.
I love
love that because it's true. Like, that's also like through our podcast, I feel like we want to share the same message of like, here's advice from people who, you know, are so successful and who we all like kind of aspire to be, whether it's like through writing or through sports or whoever it is. And like, we all have things in common. We all do similar things to feel happier, to chase our ambitions. And I think it's so cool to realize that like we can all aspire to the same role model in the book even. Like, I think it's such a cool similarity to hold.
Yes, and speaking of youth, a lot of youth talk themselves out of dreams or goals because we're scared that we're too young or inexperienced or just not good enough. Did you ever feel this type of self-doubt when you were like starting out? And if so, what's your advice for anyone to overcome it?
Yes, I absolutely felt self-doubt. I still do, honestly. Like it unfortunately, it kind of comes with the territory of pursuing dreams and the arts and things like that, you know, because the arts are so perceived, you know, you kind of give up, you know, your child, your book in a way to then let people say whatever they want about it because they're allowed to, you know, they can read it and form their own opinions. And so I definitely had so much self-doubt about, you know, is this book even good? Like, wondering like, do I deserve to have such like a platform and the ability to share it with so many people? Like there's so many incredible writers out there. Like, why don't they get this, And so there's a lot of self-doubt. And I think one thing that's helped me, and this is kind of a realization I've come to very recently, because this is something I still struggle with a lot. But I remember when I was right before Fearless was coming out, which was, that book took years off of my life in the best way possible. Like truly, it was so much, but I loved it. And I really wanted that book to be kind of like the crown jewel of the whole series. And I just want every book I write to be better than the last. And I just want to get better and better as a writer. And so Fearless, I was so nervous for it though, because I didn't know how people were going to react and what they were going to think about this finale. And I always start to freak out a few weeks before publication date, which is why I'm a little antsy now, because, Fearful will be out very soon. But I remember sitting there and just like panicking and kind of having this spiral moment, and then realizing like, wait a minute, I'm really proud of this book. And it was almost this moment of like, I get like nothing else really matters at that point, because I am so proud of where I started and, how far I've come and what this story means to me. And it was exactly what I wanted it to be. And I guess I kind of allowed myself to be proud of what I had done. And that helped so, so much. I don't know. It's not even anything crazy. It's not some insane mental switch, but it was just like, you know what? It's okay if people don't like it, because I really like it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to write for me first and hope other people enjoy it. But if they don't, it's okay, because this is my passion and this is what I love, and I'm proud of what I put out. So it was kind of that little bit of a perspective shift. And it's helped me a lot to cope with, the self-doubt of it all. And it's still there, for sure. But as long as I'm proud of what I'm doing and I know that it's the best that I can do at this point in time, then there's no reason to doubt yourself. And that's kind of what I've been trying to tell myself. But yeah, especially like we're so young. And so it's easy to be like, well, I'm not, a writer who's been doing this for decades, someone who's super experienced. It's easy to kind of compare yourself to people who are in different areas of their life or their career. And I think it's important to look at yourself in this moment where you are and be like, this is the best I could have done at this point in time, and I'm just going to keep getting better from here. So no need to doubt myself right now.
That is so beautiful. And Lauren, I just want to say thank you for being so real and authentic with us, because I know you're so successful. You're a New York Times bestseller. And I think that for ourselves and for our audience to hear that you feel self-doubt is so validating in a way, because it's okay to feel like you're not good enough. That doesn't mean that you're actually not good enough. Thoughts are not facts, and I think that's something that is easier said than done, definitely, but it's important. And I think realizing, I heard this quote recently that was there's two people that you should worry the most about making proud, and that's your younger self and your older self. As long as you're proud, you think that your younger self will be proud of you and that your older self will be proud of you for what you're doing right now, that's what matters most, because everyone else comes and goes, or people have their own, biases or reasons why they feel certain ways based on their own self-values. And so, as long as you're happy with yourself, then that's what matters most.
Absolutely. And I think, even if you write something that you look back and you're like, oh, that's not my best work, it's okay, because it's going to lead you to your best work, and it's all stepping stones, and you have to go through a rough patch, to get to the greener grass, basically you have to keep pushing through that, and you have to, it just makes you a better creative, and it just follow your passions and things. So I completely agree. And that quote is really touching. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I know. I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, I love it.
And going back to what you mentioned earlier about how it's almost like scary to start sometimes because you see like all these huge authors who have written these maybe big books or big novels, and it's like, I want to write like that, but I don't know how, and then I'm scared that my first draft or first piece of writing isn't going to be as perfect as this final copy of an author's 20th book.
That's been edited over.
Exactly. That can be so easy to kind of get in your head and then not start at all. And a quote also that I love is that, I don't know, I'm probably not quoting this properly, but like the gist of it is that you just need to start because every like master of something has started somewhere. Like we've all been beginners, and you can't become a master if you don't start, and you can't just jump into that. You have to work for it. And I feel like it can be so easy to put yourself down and like stop it because you want to be perfect. And I feel like a lot of teens fall into that because it's like, if I'm not perfect, then I don't want to start at all, or I don't want to do this at all. And overcoming that can actually make you a lot better, and then you can actually do what you're interested in doing.
Absolutely. Like starting really is the hardest part, and it's not easy to put the doubt and the fear aside and be like, I'm going to go in on this. Because sometimes it's like, especially young people, it's sometimes you don't want to get like embarrassed, you know? Like I remember I didn't tell anybody I was writing a book until about 12 chapters in. I didn't tell anybody in my personal life because I didn't want to say that I was doing something and then not finish it. And so I do think starting is like the hardest part. But that's also not to say if you start a book and you don't finish it, who cares? Start a new one, you know, start a short story. Like as long as you get that draft down, like that is such a huge accomplishment. And honestly, if you're halfway through a book and it's just not making you feel joy anymore, then don't feel like you have to continue either. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't have to be the end all be all. Like if you're not enjoying it anymore, put it down. You know, we don't want to do anything that we're not enjoying. And so that's the most important thing. I think passion is, you have to protect that. And as long as you do, you can keep writing forever and ever. So yes, that's my yap.
I love it. Incredible. And speaking of your passion and how far it's gotten you, I want you to, if you can, take us back to the moment when you discovered that you were on the New York Times Bestsellers list. I mean, how did this feel? What was going through your mind?
It was actually insane. I was helping somebody move actually at the time. And I remember, you know, I had self-published the book, and you know, it had been out for a few months, and then we had to take it down because Simon & Schuster was republishing it. So there were several months where you couldn't get the book. But a lot of people, shockingly, had bought the self-published version. And so I was really nervous that, like, no one was going to buy the traditionally published version. I was like, I feel like everybody who's already bought it are the people who would buy it. You know, like, I didn't really think there was more of an audience out there. So I was really nervous about it, and it, you know, several months went by and it finally came out. And I remember telling everybody in my life, I was like, I don't think it's going to sell very well. Like, I was sure of it because I had already sold way more copies than I ever thought I would have. So I was like, no one cares. It's been off the shelves for months. Everybody forgot. No one's going to buy it. And it was crazy. I remember, you know, the week went by, and the night that you find out if you made the list, you know, the hours start ticking by, and I was like, I didn't make the list. Like, it's fine. It's no big deal, whatever. And I remember I got a call from my US editor, and she was like, Lauren, you are on the New York Times bestsellers list. And I literally freaked out. I couldn't believe it. It was like a dream come true. Like, I never thought that was going to happen. I really was like, maybe a couple people will buy the book. Like, it's okay. But I could not believe it. And then from there, you know, that was November. And by time it was into the next year, which was 2024, it climbed up the New York Times bestsellers list, which was unbelievable because I was like, okay, I think I started at number 3, and I was sure, you know, the next week I'd be off of it. But then it just started to climb, and I guess more people found out about the book, and it didn't become what it did until, you know, early 2024. And so it was just such an insane whirlwind, and I can't even believe it. Like, and still every single time, like it is such an honor. Like, it's so crazy to think that that many people bought your book and now you get to have this title, and so I'm very, very thankful.
That
Incredible.
is so amazing.
And it's so well
exciting.
deserved. And I'm so excited for you because you worked so hard on that book, from self-publishing Powerless to then selling it and having it republished by, you know, a huge publishing house, to then going on the New York Times bestselling list. Like, it's so inspiring.
Absolutely. And every time that I'm on TikTok and there's like those like book recommendations slideshows, I always see your book on it, and I'm like, yes.
I'm so glad. That makes me very happy.
Yes, it's well deserved.
Absolutely. And you know, you've been between indie publishing and then, you know, being with Simon & Schuster and your social media community, and there is just a lot of pressure on you to constantly, and is there a lot of pressure to constantly put out new content in, right? And if so, how do you manage this pressure?
Yeah, yes, there is, for sure, but it's like a good and bad thing, because obviously it's such an honor to have pressure from readers. Like, how cool is it that there's people that actually want to see new content? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, how am I going to keep up with this? So yeah, I definitely do feel that. And even just like on social media, in the sense of like, I don't post nearly as much as I used to. I used to be way more active, but now, you know, there's a lot of things going on. So I'm focusing on writing and trying to get more books out for people. But I would say how I manage it is just, really, you just have to look at how incredible it is. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the best kind of pressure ever. Like, this is pressure from people saying that they want more of my writing, which is just insane to say, and I never thought that would ever happen. So I just look at it like it's such a blessing to even be in this position. So why, I'm never gonna complain, you know? But I do think I definitely have taken some breaks from social media. That has helped. As much as I love social media, and it's truly the only reason I'm here at all, was because of TikTok and Instagram. But sometimes I do need a little bit of a break, and I kind of go into my writing cave and block everything out and just sit and write the story that I started writing when I was 18. And yeah, I mean, I go as fast as I can. I want to keep the people fed, obviously, and kind of give back, because they're the only reason any of this happened. So I'm like, of course I want to keep putting content out there for you. So I try my best, but honestly, I just look at the bright side, because I'm like, you know, this is like the best sort of problem ever.
I love it.
that
You gotta
so
have, it's all
much.
about like the perspective and the mindset that you keep, and I think that that's a really wonderful mindset. And I think
Yes.
even like, for me, I know it's not quite the same, but when you're at school, like, I try to keep a mindset of like, you know what, there's people who in the past maybe didn't get the same opportunities to have this type of education, or maybe didn't have a chance to study something that they're interested in, or, you know, have to read this cool, interesting book, maybe not like a fictional book, but still fun and interesting. And so I think like it's all about perspective and mindset, and being like, my hardest day is someone else's dream day. Like, some people don't have this family, or don't have this friends, or don't have, you know, I don't know, their own phone or something like that. So just realizing everything that you have, and sometimes we complain about it, but realistically someone else would want just that, right? So
Exactly. And I have been, and I'm sure like you both have as well, I'm sure, been on the other side, like before any of this stuff. It's like, I remember looking at the authors being like, oh, I wish I was in their position. So now every time I'm on like a crazy deadline and I'm stressed and I'm pulling all-nighters, I'm like, you know what? I need to take a step back and just be very thankful that like this is a dream come true. And is it hard sometimes? Absolutely. But like, it is a dream nonetheless, and I'm gonna enjoy every second of it. So that is such a great reminder.
That's such a
incredible.
beautiful mindset. I love that so much. And speaking of your new book coming out, is there anything that you can tell us, a little bit of like a teaser for us and our audience?
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna try and come up with something good. I want to give a good little teaser. But I will say, obviously, Fearful is a companion book with Fearless, so you can actually read the two in tandem. The stories perfectly fit together, but I do suggest reading Fearless before reading Fearful, though, because you're going to get things spoiled for you if you read the tandem together if you haven't read Fearless. But I mean, Fearful really dives into life and death and hope and light and dark, and how not everyone is who we think they are. And, you know, there's a backstory to everything, and how like good and evil, there's not such a hard line between them. And especially following Death, you can see that she's just a girl, you know, and she, honestly, in my opinion, I think she is one of the most relatable characters in the whole series, because she is like, she gets those butterflies with a boy, you know, she falls really fast and she can be a little obsessive, but then on the other side, she's really bitter about things and she's resentful and she wants revenge. And I feel like she has real emotions that, like, growing up, so did a lot of us, you know, whereas Peyton is like, most of the time, she's a goody two-shoes, you know, she's doing exactly what she's supposed to, and if she does something bad, she has a reason for it, you know. And so this, I feel like this story really unpacks, like, how raw and real these characters are and how human they are. But I will say, little tidbit, is you're going to leave with more questions, I fear. You know, you're going to finish the book and be like, what? So there's definitely more to be said, and I'm building a universe here. I have so many things in the works. I have so many stories in my brain right now that I'm just ready to write out. But that said, I'm building this universe, but it's going to be like, the next thing that I'm working on is completely separate from Powerless. New kingdom, new characters, new everything. But all of these different stories are kind of going to have a through line, and they're going to, you know, have some breadcrumbs in them that people who have read Powerless will understand. But if you haven't read Powerless, you can read all these new things as well. So it's going to be a really good entry point for new people. But I'm building a universe, and, you know, I have plans to maybe Sarah J. Maas people in the future and bring everybody back. And, you know, I have lots of ideas spinning. So there's definitely more to be said, especially from Fearful. It really opens up the world even more. You're going to leave with so many questions. But yes, I feel like I'm trying to think of a good tidbit. I'm hoping that the Kit haters will change their mind by the end of Fearful, or at least have a different opinion of him, because there's a lot of Kit haters, and I get it, I do.
But from the sounds of it, is there hopefully another book that's going to follow up and answer some of the questions from Fearful?
Yes, so I do have lots of things in the works. I can't say when or what it'll be, but you'll definitely get the answers to those. I promise I won't leave you hanging forever. I have plans to divulge everything in due time. But yeah, so that I always tell people, you got to be a little patient with me, because I'm building a universe. There's a lot of moving pieces happening, you know, but all will be revealed for sure.
When can our listeners shop Fearful?
Ooh, yes. Fearful comes out September 2nd. So soon. And yeah, I can't believe that this is kind of like the capstone to this whole series. You know, this is the end of the Powerless series, which is so insane. You know, this series changed my life. So I just appreciate everybody who's been along for the journey, and I hope you enjoy Fearful.
So exciting.
This is so amazing.
I know.
We cannot wait. And it's so soon.
I know.
I'm code red right now. This is the time where I start freaking out, and this is when I use my coping method of like, I'm proud of it. We're going to be okay.
100%. I am so excited for you, and I'm excited for Fearful. And I'm so curious, taking it back to the book writing process, when you were writing your first book, Powerless, and still today with your incredible universe that you're building up, how does your BookTok community impact you personally and your writing process?
Ooh, yes. I would say I love my little community on the internet. Like, they are truly my safe space, and the only reason any of this happened. Like, I have never... It's the thing is, I haven't even met them. Like, we are just like... But through the screen, I have never met anybody who is so supportive. Like, in everything that I do, you know, this community is right there, and they're ready to support. And so they have affected my life and giving me so much more self-confidence and just like belief in myself, you know, because they're always there and telling me to go after things and that they love the books and they want to see more. And so they've helped so much in that respect. But as for my writing, I mean, I hear a lot of opinions and I hear a lot of like fan theories and things like that on the internet, which I love. Like I truly do love hearing what people have to say about the books or what they think is going to happen. But especially when I was writing Fearless, I really had to like go into my writing cave and not listen because there were so many things I was hearing. And of course, I always want to give the readers what they want. You know, I don't want to give you a book that's something that you are totally not interested in. Like, of course not. But at the same time, I don't want you to know everything that's going to happen, you know, because that's no fun for everybody. And you'd be like, yeah, we saw that coming, you know? So, with Fearless, I had seen so many fan theories, and I actually put one of the fan theories into Fearless to, like, throw people off the scent and think that they knew what it was when turns out it was not at all. I won't spoil it for anyone who maybe hasn't read Fearless, but it was basically Peyton believing she figured something out, and then you realize that she wasn't right about it. And I literally saw that fan theory on the internet, and it was so fun to kind of integrate it into the story. And that's just the beauty of social media, of like, you know, 10 years ago, that wasn't a thing. You know, authors were not writing scenes that were told to them by their readers, you know, like I feel like now with social media, we have such a personal, direct connection to the readers. And I will literally go online and say, you know, what would you like to read about? Like, what scenes, what tropes do you want, you know? And with the next thing that I'm working on, which obviously after Fearful is out, I'm going to start just bringing people on that journey for, you know, my new project. And I'm going to ask them the same thing. Like, what tropes do you want? You know, like, what is something you would love to see? Because this book is for me just as much as it is, oh my goodness, just as much as it is for you, you know, and I want to make people happy while also staying true to the story that I want to tell. So, I mean, social media has just played such a huge part in my life and career overall.
Absolutely. I think I love how you tie those two together, although it does seem like sometimes you need to have a little bit of a balance between listening to others. And I totally get it. Your little writing cave, I love that.
So fun.
How do you stay creative for hours when you're doing it all in one go? I feel like it can be so difficult sometimes when you're just trying to like sit down and just do a ton of writing.
I feel like especially these days, like our attention spans and our focus, right? Like it's hard to like put our attention and be creative in like a long burst of time. So how do you do it?
Yes. I mean, I would say deadlines help because it is kind of like oh wow, I have to do this because it's my job, you know? So there's definitely that dynamic of, you know, I unfortunately work my best under a time crunch. And so, I mean, I will be writing a book for months, but then I write the absolute most in the last 3 weeks before a deadline. So that always helps, kind of knowing that I have to get going. But aside from that, like truly staying engaged and passionate about what I'm doing, something that helps me is actually going back and reading a scene or a piece of dialogue or a poem, because I write a lot of poetry for myself, going back and reading something that I'm really proud of. And something about it motivates me because I'm like, I want to write something that I'm that proud of again. You know, I want to write something that surprises myself, you know? And so it's almost like I'm in competition with myself, and, you know, past Lauren and present Lauren, we're kind of, you know, beefing a little bit on who can write the better thing. But something about that helps me, and I guess it shows me that at one point in time I wrote something that I was so proud of, and like now I want to feel that again and do it again. So that helps a lot. It's also very helpful to just write a scene that you're really excited for, even if you're not at that moment. You know, if you're writing something that you knew from the very beginning of this book that you were like, I cannot wait to write this scene, and say you're in a slump, like just go write it, you know, and you can integrate it later. So there's a lot of different hacks and things to staying focused and engaged. One of them is putting my phone in the other room for sure. That one is very helpful.
Definitely. I think that for anyone listening, and this is something I am going to definitely try to incorporate into my routine, especially with, fall and back to school season on approach and here already for some of us. And that is like the idea of deadlines. I think that no matter what you're working on, having a deadline, like even if it's self-imposed, like self-imposed deadlines are powerful.
Definitely.
Like maybe not quite as powerful as like, having a deadline from like your boss or your teacher, but still powerful, like being like, I want it done, by, I don't know, December. I want to be done this thing. I want to make this step. Knowing that and having like a date in your mind makes it so real, and like then you can feel accomplished when you're actually there. And so if you want to, establish a new habit, even if it's like something personal, like maybe it's not for a book or not for an academic purpose, but it's for like, I want to get better at going to bed by 10:30 instead of at 11:30, and I want this to be like my nightly, like I do this 5 days a week throughout the school week. I want to be, in bed by 10:30. By December, this is like regular. Like that's such a good goal to have, and it's tangible, it's real. You can measure it out. You can see how you're doing on it. When you're getting closer to December 1st, if that's like your deadline, right? You can see, am I getting better at doing that more frequently? Am I not? And so like it can be for something personal. It can be for exercise. It can be for, calling a family member. It can be for anything. And I just love that idea and that hack of deadlines.
Absolutely. And I think also telling someone in your life to keep you accountable is so great. And that's another reason why when I started telling people in my life that I was writing a book, I was like, okay, now I got to finish it, because they're going to keep asking me. So I definitely like a friend or a family member, like keeping each other accountable is so helpful as well. But yes, I completely agree.
Absolutely. I know one time I mentioned to my mom I was like trying to spend a little bit less time on TikTok, and then after that she was like every day she was like, so like let's put that phone away right now. Like let's try doing something else.
That much, right?
Exactly.
Are you looking for the best, unique, and meaningful gift to give to anyone in your life? Mercedes and I have been loving our subscription to the meditation app Waking Up. It is so amazing. It has so many different meditations that you can try and listen to, and the best part is they even have different episodes that you can listen to that talks about why meditation is so important and can really help you out.
As the countdown to the holiday season, birthdays, or other special occasions embarks, grab a 12-month-long, yes, a full year subscription to Waking Up and save $30 off the first year by clicking the link in our show notes.
Now let's get back into the episode.
And so I'm curious, from self-publishing in your bedroom to international book tours, what moment, Lauren, made you stop and think, wow, is this real?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's been so many of those moments, which is insane to even think. But I remember, this is going to sound a little odd, but the first time I realized that this book was becoming something bigger than I ever thought it would be was actually when I saw my first negative video on TikTok. It was like the first review that someone had made that really didn't like the book. And at first it was kind of like, oh, like that's a bummer, wish they liked it. Of course it's not always great to see that, but then it was like, wait a minute, like they just spent time making a video about my book. And it was like this crazy, weird moment of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe people even care enough about this book to make a video about it because they didn't like it, And I guess that was when I realized like, wow, people are reading this. And obviously that's not like the most positive scenario. I have a lot of other ones of like, I remember being in the UK for the first time for Powerful, actually, when that had come out, and they put a giant billboard it was like a spillboard, so it was 3D, and it had like the dagger and all these flowers, and it was the most insane thing. I couldn't believe it. That was one of those moments. I mean, I think when I signed with SNS, that was another huge moment of like, oh my goodness, like there's a whole publishing company who's been doing this for decades who believes in me and these books, and that was insane. Yeah, just so many. I remember finishing Reckless. Reckless was the first book I had written after Powerless, actually. It wasn't Powerful. I wrote Reckless, And I remember turning that in to my editors, and I pulled an all-nighter, and I finished it at 5 in the morning. And I remember thinking, like, what is life right now? Like, this is crazy. And I sent it over to my editors, and it was wild. Like, I've had so many of those moments. I've been so blessed to have like so many things happen that have been insane. But yeah, as weird as it sounds, I think it was that moment when I saw someone make a negative video about it. I was like, wait, they took the time to make a video about me, you know? So it sounds odd, but it was definitely a pivotal moment.
Absolutely. I love that. You took like a negative moment and you turned it positive, which
Very
is
positive.
absolutely amazing.
Incredible.
And as with any public figure, you've definitely, like you mentioned, faced some online hate about your books. But we love your work.
We do.
And we love how you've also chosen to focus on the positive instead. What are your top tips for others to focus on the positive when there's surrounding by negative things, and we all get some hate sometimes, even if it's not from online?
I think, I mean, it definitely was a lot of trial and error figuring things out. And I guess these examples pertain to author things. But I used to go out of my way to read reviews. Like, I would go on Goodreads and I would read every review. And I kind of found myself looking for the bad reviews because it was so easy to almost like just skip past the good ones, you know, to then find the person who didn't like it, you know, and read what they had to say. And obviously there's a time and place for constructive criticism. And I've taken a lot and I've learned so much from this series, absolutely. But I think something that helped me so much was taking a step back from social media. And obviously still interacting with the readers, and I still want to be, you know, authentic and have that connection with them, of course. But I think I stopped scrolling on TikTok specifically, just because my whole TikTok was all book stuff, which is amazing, but it was like every other scroll, because TikTok knew who I was, it was like things about me were all over my own For You page. And I was like, you know what? This isn't healthy. You know, it was getting to the point where I would go to open up the app and I like felt sick to my stomach of like, what am I going to see, you know? And so I was like, I just need to take a step back. So I stopped scrolling on TikTok. And what I love about Instagram specifically is that you can filter what's being shown up, so you can block out certain words. I literally blocked out Lauren Roberts. I blocked out Powerless because I was like, I want to have a blank, like a neutral space where I don't have to worry about what I'm going to see or if it's going to be something about me and I'm not expecting it. So that was something that's helped me so much. But yeah, I think in general, again, this kind of goes back to just believing in yourself and what you've done and being proud of that. You know, it always kind of circles back to that of, you know, there's always going to be people who aren't your biggest fans or they don't like what you're doing in any career or area of life. There's always going to be that. But as long as you're proud of who you are to begin with, and also what you're doing and what you're displaying to the world, then that's all that matters. You know, they can think what they want, but, you know, if like you just need to be a good person and do what you want to do and kind of block out the rest. And so I think it's really important to just focus on your achievements and what you're proud of in your life, and the people also around you who love you and are supporting you, and remembering, and this is a little more career specific, but with the books, there's so many people that have been so supportive and so loving through all of this. And I'm like, it's not fair to them for me to disregard everything that they have done for me too, you know, because it's that saying of like, you know, for every 100 good comments, you're only thinking about the one bad one, you know? And it's so sad because then it's like you're almost disrespecting all of those amazing comments and all that amazing support. So I really do try to just like focus on the people who resonated with this story and who, you know, for whatever reason, like to listen to me yap, because, you know, like these books are for them and for us. And if the books aren't for you, that's totally fine, to each their own. So it's kind of been like a, you know, combination of things I've been trying to do, but it's definitely trial and error. It's easier said than done.
I absolutely love that. And I also think it's so easy to take something that someone says online, someone specifically who does not know you personally, to kind of hear what they're saying and then be like, almost because your book, of course, can probably feel really personal to you because you spent so much time and probably pouring so much of your heart into it that it can feel like they're almost personally coming after you, but realizing that there is this kind of barrier. They don't know you as an individual, and if you're, I don't know, hearing something from someone else or even someone that you're not that close to,
like even if it's not online,
exactly,
but
not
just someone
online,
you don't
if
know
you're
as
just
well.
like a teenager or someone that, you know, maybe not saying the nicest things about you, again, maybe they're not that close to you, or, you know, you can't always take what other people are saying, and you have to kind of know yourself and know that, like, this is who I am, and what other people say don't determine kind of who I am, but more about who they are. You know, people's words reflect who they really are, even if they're saying something about you instead.
Absolutely. I think social media, it's a wonderful tool. It can not be so wonderful sometimes. And I think kind of finding your people. And that's why I say I love the community that surrounds these books. And I just kind of bury myself in them, like these are my people, anybody outside, it's okay. Because everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's totally fine. So, kind of just finding your people. And yeah, that's such a good point. You're exactly right. Like it says a lot about each person and what they're saying. So yeah, absolutely.
100%. And I love that you like blocked out the
Yes,
words
I
of the
love
things you
that.
don't want to see. Like truly just like if something like bothers you, like I know that sometimes certain things on social media, even that you see, like don't be afraid to block that account, restrict it, or like I know there's different settings you can pick that like they can't see that you've blocked them, but like their stuff won't show up for you, or your stuff won't show up for them. And I think that it's just like protecting your peace and like
Absolutely.
is this everything. And a little bit of a twist in the conversation, but I know a lot of kids and teens and even adults who listen to the show are interested in writing and maybe even authorship someday. So if there is someone listening to this right now who is interested in someday being an author, what would be your starting advice for their first step?
Ooh, okay. So I'm kind of reiterating a little bit of what I said earlier, but there's a lot of advice I could say about, the process and, the ins and outs of actually writing a book. But honestly, I think that is the least important part, because I am proof of having no idea what you're doing and you somehow wrote a book, So I think it doesn't matter how you write the book as long as you write it. So, truly what I think the most important thing is protecting your passion. And this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, but as long as you have passion, you can write until the day that you die, and you can keep getting better and better, and you will only grow in this passion of yours. It's kind of like this well that we're drawing from for the rest of our lives. And if you let, negative comments, or you let things discourage you, or maybe people didn't like the book as much as you hoped, if you let that drain your passion, then, it's bad. I'm like, it's just bad. Don't protect that passion, bottle it up. Don't let anybody touch it. Don't let any outside voices or anything, just like sway you from continuing to do what you love. And I think that's the most important thing. Find what you love about writing and just try and protect that. And I think something that helps me is to keep a piece of my writing for me, which is why I write a lot of poetry. And I'll share some of it here and there on like my, Substack and whatnot. But for the most part, a lot of it is just for me. And I think that has been a way for me to like protect my passion in a sense of no one is touching this piece of my passion and no one can have any opinions on it because it's just for me. So I truly think that is the most important thing. You have to have passion. Because as readers, we know when an author isn't passionate about what they're writing. And so I think that's the most important thing. And then you can keep writing forever and ever and just keep getting better.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
So good. Just protect your passion, and I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And now for a more fun question. You can only read one genre for the rest of your life. Which genre are you choosing and why?
Oh no. Oh, this is so tough. Okay. See, if you had asked me about 2 years ago, I think I would say fantasy. And I still obviously love fantasy. But I think now, if I had to choose one, I would say literary fiction, because there's just so many avenues of it too. There's the really sophisticated literary fiction of like, you know, it's almost like a lesson, you're being taught something, but there's also, you know, humorous literary fiction. There's mysterious like there's a lot of different avenues of it. So I feel like that one I'm almost cheating in a way, because I can I can read all different types of literary fiction, but the writing in it is so good. Like it's like I want to eat it. Like it's delicious. It is so incredible, and it's something that I definitely want to move into in the future. So I'd say literary fiction.
I love that. You kind of found like the loophole.
I love that.
I know.
So good. And something that we love to ask all of our guests is, what is a piece of advice that you wish you could give to your teenage self?
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of something I haven't already said, because I feel like I'm repeating myself. But yeah, I mean, I guess a combination of it all. Protect your passion. Also, you're allowed to be proud of what you've done. Like, even if you wrote a book and say it is the worst book, it doesn't matter, because you had the dedication and the drive to actually sit down and write it, you know? So I think allowing yourself to be proud of what you've done, and like not letting that self-doubt kind of eat away at you, and like, you made it here, you know, use the most of it, you know, like you're here, and people are watching and they want to hear what you have to say. So like, you know, give them what they want, and might as well make the most of it, you know? And so I say, yeah, protect your passion and be proud of yourself, I guess.
I love that so much.
Absolutely.
And what is something that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Eat. I would say I love food, and yeah, I eat, I pet my cats, I play with my cats all the time. That brings me so much happiness. But also I don't do this every day, but I love thrifting, and that is something that brings me so much happiness. So that is when I can sneak out and do that. Yes.
I love all those things, and I love eating too, so I get it. What's your favorite food or your like go-to meal?
I love ramen, and I'm talking like the 10-cent packet ramen, like the ones that you can buy at the grocery store. I will eat that all the time. I also love actually good ramen, but if I'm at home, I'm making the 10-cent ramen. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Love
so
that.
yummy.
100%. And it's easy to find, right? You don't need to go out to a restaurant. You can just go to the store.
Yes.
Super convenient.
Even I can cook it, so we're doing good.
And as a final question, Lauren, do you have one motivational quote you love and remember? And if you do, why?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Oh my goodness. I don't know that I do, and I should for sure. The first quote that came to my mind, this is kind of embarrassing because it's one of those like Pinterest quotes, if you will, but I thought of the one that's like, what if I fall? And it's like, oh, but what if you fly? You know, and it's like one of those ones that is so cute. Like, it reminds me of like Tumblr 2013 era, but that was the first one that came to my mind, so I'm gonna go with that one and say I think it's honestly a great message. Like, it's a cute little quote, but it is a great message of like, you know, it's scary to take that leap and that risk of following your dreams, and like, what if you do fall, but what if you don't? And even if you do fall, you're going to learn so much from that, and you're going to get up and try again. So that was my cheesy little quote, but we'll go with that one.
I love it.
that
and
so
I
much.
feel like it shouldn't be cheesy because it is such a powerful, good
It is
message.
amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Well, Lauren, where can our listeners find you if they want to keep up and learn more?
Yes, so I am on TikTok and Instagram and Substack at Lauren Roberts Library if you want to listen to me yap some more. And yeah, that's kind of just where I'm at. And then obviously Fearful is out September 2nd. So exciting.
So
Amazing.
exciting. Yes.
We're so excited.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Speaking with you has been a dream for us, and
so amazing.
so inspiring. So thank you.
It was so nice chatting with you both. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much to Lauren for joining us today.
I absolutely loved speaking with her. She's so kind, so enthusiastic, and just, you can like tell how passionate Lauren is about her work, and I adore it. What was your biggest takeaway, Anastasia?
I gotta say, I think my biggest takeaway is that you really need to like protect your peace. Like, it's totally okay to like be online and looking at other stuff and getting inspiration from there, but like, you also need to sometimes really like dial in and focus on what you're working on. And you know, it's totally okay to like leave your phone in the other room and just really focus and not let other people get into your head. How about you?
I love how Lauren talked about being proud of yourself. I think too often we seek external validation, other people, or like awards or numbers defining our worth, but truly, as long as you're proud of it, that's the most rewarding thing. And I honestly think it's more rewarding if you're proud of it than if you get like a good grade or if someone likes it. Like, I think the most rewarding thing is when, sure, that happens, but you're proud of what you've done, or just proud of yourself in general for anything. If you enjoyed this interview with Lauren Roberts, we think you'd love our conversation with Meg Cabot, the author of The Princess Diaries. Yes, the movie with Anne Hathaway in it. It's incredible. Meg talks all about how to eliminate distractions to focus on your passion, navigate criticism, and her top hacks for finding inspiration.
I quit a lot of things when I was a teenager. I quit dance, I quit ballet, I quit acting, I quit baseball. All because the whole time I was doing those things, I kept thinking, gosh, I wish I was writing a book instead of doing these things.
You can listen to our conversation with Meg Cabot now. It's linked in the show notes.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it, and it's a really great way to let other people know that this is a great show to be listening to.
Definitely. And also bring us a small bit of happiness by following Hack Your Happiness on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now. It's completely free and it truly helps us out.
See you next time!